Hey Marshall, on this Lachadodi, the first time, do you want to do the fills on the verse?
Page 12. Lechu niranena, rai 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 rai, l'Adonai, yai lai 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 lai, navia, yai lai 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 Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Allison Chippy. Wonderful.
This is a good problem.
If people would like to share their prayer books, we have the best problem in the world.
It's a wonderful problem.
We don't have enough sidurim.
So I tell you what.
What a blessing.
We're going to have a couple of our ushers maybe walk through the chapel. If you are able to share your prayer book with the person next to you.
Look at everybody mobilizing. What is this, Israel?
I don't know. This
Amazing.
This is the best problem
This
ever.
is the best community ever.
Well,
and because
it is.
it
is. All right. So
everybody, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
It is
Shabbos.
so wonderful to be with all of you on this Shabbat. And as it has become customary, we invite you to please say Shabbat Shalom to your neighbor. If you don't know your neighbor, introduce yourself.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
And as usual, Yana, there's space here. And as usual, let's take this moment to take a cleansing breath because I feel like we all need it. So please breathe in with me and let it out. In with Shabbat, out with literally everything else. For the next hour, it is just us in this room and everybody who's joining us on live stream around the world. But we are creating this intimate space to just be together, to just rejoice and celebrate the greatest gift that we have, which is Shabbat and our community. In this moment, I would like to just remind everyone that we thank you to Erica Wilkov, who has helped arrange for some wonderful caretakers, babysitters of adults and of young people. And if you have a child that's 18 months and up until, your call, how long you can adult yourself. But I'm going to let you decide that for yourself. But when the sermon comes around, which is going to be of a little bit of an adult nature this evening, we invite our younger members to engage in Shabbat programming in the library with some of our teachers and our teens, and they will be, of course, invited back at the end of our service when we drink wine and challah, obviously. So I will be reminding you of that in a little bit. This weekend, we celebrate those who fight for freedom, those who protect our freedoms. It is our Veterans Day weekend and appreciation. So in this moment, I would love to invite all of our veterans who are present this evening to join us and help us light the candles, please. Our Shabbat candles. We are so grateful you are here with us, and we are so grateful that you can light our Shabbat candles for us.
Let's wait one more moment.
Oh, סליחה, תודה.
No. He said he's the only one from World War I. You look great. You look great for your age. Okay.
Thank you. All right, our protectors, please.
Let's read together.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us, as their brightness reminds us of generations of Israel who have kindled light. So may we in our own day be among those who have kindled light.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Thank you for your service. Thank you.
Friends, we continue our service with Lecha Dodi, Lecha Dodi.
Something tells me they're not applauding Lecha Dodi.
They're not?
I happen to like it a lot, but I don't think that's what that was for.
It's good. We don't prep, we don't do that anyway. Lecha Dodi is a reminder of Shabbat. We always compare this beautiful poem. We compare Shabbat to our beautiful blushing bride. This evening we're going to do Lecha Dodi. We're going to do verses 1, 2, and 9. And I will remind you when we get to verse 9, I'll invite you to please rise and face the entrance as if we are welcoming our beautiful blushing Shabbat bride. Join us on page 20.
Yai lai lai, la 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 la, lecha dodi. Ya la 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 la, lekrat kala. Ya la 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 la, penei Shabbat, penei Shabbat nekabela. Ya la 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 la, lecha dodi. Ya la 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 la, lekrat kala. Ya la 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 la, penei Shabbat, penei Shabbat nekabela.
שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד השמיענו אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה
Yai lai lai, la 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 la, lecha dodi. Ya la 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 la, lekrat kala. Ya la 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 la, penei Shabbat, penei Shabbat nekabela. Ya la 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 la, lecha dodi. Ya la 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 la, lekrat kala. Ya la 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 la, penei Shabbat, penei Shabbat nekabela. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה Yai lai lai, ya la 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 la, lecha dodi. Ya la 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 la, likrat kala. Ya la 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 la, penei Shabbat, penei Shabbat nekabela. Ya la 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 la, lecha dodi. Ya la 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 la, likrat kala. Ya la 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 la, penei Shabbat, penei Shabbat nekabela. בואי ושלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמונה, עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, יאי די די, יאללה לה לה לה, lecha dodi, יאללה לה לה לה, לקראת כלה, יאללה לה לה לה, פני שבת, פני שבת נקבלה, יאללה לה לה לה, lecha dodi, יאללה לה לה לה, לקראת כלה, יאללה לה לה לה, פני שבת, פני שבת נקבלה. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed Le'olam Va'ed Yalla lai lai Yalla lai 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 Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vad.
You may be seated. We continue with the Ve'ahavta on page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך
והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננת לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלבתך בדרך ושוקבך ובקומך ושרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך ובטבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We
Thanks,
continue
Melissa.
on page 42. When we sing the Hashkivenu, lehashkiv, we lie down. And in Hashkivenu, we say, Adonai Eloheinu leshalom. Not only are we asking for blessing before we go to sleep, but we're asking for shalom. Shalom doesn't just mean peace, although it very much does. It also comes from the word shalem, a sense of wholeness. In this moment, I sense that many of us are not sleeping perfectly sound and are having a hard time making sense of some very difficult things in our world. Matisyahu, who's a famous Jewish kind of folk rocky singer, came up with this song that's almost like a tefillah called One Day, where he imagines a world where there is no more fighting and there is no more war. And this evening, Cantor Sibo once again very creatively helped us get inspired with our prayer, with our Hashkivenu, with also thinking about what it would look like to have world peace. What does that really mean, and how would that affect our slumber before we go to sleep every single night? Please join us.
All my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more war and our children will play. One day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ושלום מעתה ועד עולם. My life I've been waiting for the people to say that we don't wanna fight no more. There'll be no more wars and our children will play. One day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom L'chaim L'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom Hamidenu Shomreinu L'chaim. One day.
Amen. We continue on page 44 with a joyous prayer, reminding us that no matter what, we always have Shabbat.
ושמרו והנה ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
I invite you to please rise as you are able for the Amidah on page 46.
Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 שפתי תפתח. Na 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 ופי יגיד, ופי יגיד תהילתך. Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 שפתי תפתח. Na 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 ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומר חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניכם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה, רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מחלקי חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל.
אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. You may be seated. We continue with the Shalom Rav on page 60. Please join us.
Shalom Rav al Israel amcha tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Israel amcha tasim le'olam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav, Shalom Rav al Israel tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav, Shalom Rav tasim le'olam. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב, שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב, שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
We continue with our silent prayer.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומיו, עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. One day.
Amen. For our youngest members, we are so happy you are here. If you would like to join our teachers for an exhilarating time with our teens and teachers with lots of action, we invite you to do so with our preschool director, Erica Wilkoff, who's standing in the back. For those of you who don't want to hear a sermon, I advise that you go with Erica as well. No, Cantor, you have to stay. You can't, okay. You work here. If you want to become a rabbi, a cantor, or a Jewish educator through the Reform movement, you attend seminary for 5 short years, where the first year you spend studying on the beautiful campus of the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion in Jerusalem. This was one of the truly best years of my life, aside from when I met you, my husband. Obviously. During my year in Israel, I wanted to be fully immersed in Israeli life, and rather than living with my classmates, I chose to live with 2 Israelis. After I signed the contract and was moving my things in, my roommates informed me that we had a 3rd roommate that's going to be living with us, to make us 4 now, who did not pay rent, and we had to help provide food and any necessities that he needed. I had just taken a $30,000 loan from the bank to survive, so the idea of supporting another adult human being, mind you, after I had signed the contract, was nothing short of perplexing. Naturally, I had some questions. My roommates informed me that Yanal is a Palestinian refugee, and he was in transition to find a permanent home in Europe, and we had to house him until all of his arrangements were officially made. Yanal had to escape his home in Gaza because his family was trying to kill him once they found out he was gay. Yanal had done nothing wrong except choose to love someone his family deemed forbidden. So the consequence was murder. Thankfully, he escaped, and Israeli protective agencies helped him find a temporary home in Jerusalem, and then eventually found him a home in Europe. We were never to communicate with him after he left our home, for this was for his own protection, and I truly pray he is well wherever he is. This, my friends, is what it means to be Israeli. A lone democracy that protects all of its citizens, finds shelter for the stranger, fights for women's rights, has the largest, most populated LGBTQ+ celebration in the Middle East and parts of Europe, largest entrepreneurship and innovative per capita in the world, and so on and so on. And this is not to say that Israel is perfect, far from it. She's not, but nor is any other country. What was most fascinating to me about Yanal's stay was that my roommates never said anything to me before I signed the contract. They didn't know my politics. They didn't ask me about my finances, or even the fact that maybe I didn't want another person living with us. To them, helping someone in need was a given. Was I upset? I can't say I wasn't a little financially concerned, but the reality was I was extremely proud to be part of this mitzvah. I share this personal story with you today because it's important that we understand who Israel is. The world has not done a great job of capturing Israel's entire identity, history, or even shedding light on the real complexity that deals with the relationships Israel has with her Palestinian neighbors. Whether it's the media, the misinformation being taught on college campuses, or social media outlets, I'm concerned and even upset that not shedding light on the multifarious nature of our relationship is not informing the public of what's happened, but rather egging on one side or the other and creating more harm than good. The world is looking in, surrounding this region in what feels like two dogs in a barking fight, rather than nurturing a loving relationship of peace and commonality, effacing the realities on the ground due to misinformation, intentional ignorance, or just plain hatred. Perhaps the most problematic issue is that of the false narrative that Israel has colonized Gaza, which has dehumanized Israelis to the extent that otherwise rational people excuse, deny, or support barbarity. In an Atlantic article by Simon Sebag Montefiore, he explains the profound issue with holding Israel as an imperialist, colonialist force, as if Israelis are settler colonialists and that Palestinians have a right to eliminate their oppressors, the oppressors being the Israelis. And we know what happened on October 7th. It casts Israelis as white or white adjacent, and Palestinians as people of color. And I put these terms in quotes because these are quotes that we use here in the United States. This ideology, which is perhaps powerful in academy but long overdue for serious challenge, is extremely toxic and incorrect. It's problematic because people are forcing history through a concept of race that derives from the American experience, which is not the Jewish or Israeli experience. Proof in point, I am not a European Jew, but a Mizrahi or Middle Eastern Jew. And again, 52% of Israelis look like me and come from places that I come from, which is the Middle East. Not to mention Arab Israelis who are also Middle Eastern. Thus, as Montefiore puts it, the argument is that it is almost impossible for the oppressed to be themselves racist, in this case Hamas, just as it is impossible for the oppressor to be the subject of racism, those of Israeli Middle Eastern descent. With this backwards and incorrect theory, somehow Jews cannot suffer racism because they are regarded as white and privileged and cannot be victims. Montefiore poignantly argues that with this leftist analysis, with its hierarchy of oppressed identities and intimidating jargon, a clue to its lack of factual rigor, has in many parts of the academy and media replaced traditional universalist leftist values, including internationalist standards of decency and respect for human life and the safety of innocent civilians. When this clumsy analysis collides with the realities of the Middle East, it loses all touch with historical facts. Contrary to the decolonizing narrative, Gaza is not technically occupied by Israel, not in the usual sense of soldiers on the ground. Israel evacuated the Strip in 2005, removing all of its settlers and inhabitants. In 2007, Hamas seized power, killing its Fatah rivals in a short civil war. Hamas set up a one-party state that crushes Palestinian opposition within its territory, bans same-sex relationship, represses women, and openly espouses the killing of all Jews. Very strange company for leftists. In this article, Montefiore points out that in a further racist twist, Jews are now accused of the very crimes they themselves have suffered. Hence, the constant claim of genocide when no genocide has taken place or been intended. Israel with Egypt has imposed a blockade on Gaza since Hamas took over. Although there is a strong instinct to make this a Holocaust mirroring genocide, it is not. The Palestinians suffer from many things, including military occupation, settler intimidation, and violence. Corrupt Palestinian political leadership, callous neglect by their brethren in more than 20 Arab states. But none of this constitutes genocide. This is not to take away from the deep tragedy that Palestinians suffer. They are suffering greatly. In a perfect world, we rid ourselves of Hamas, and Palestinians and Israelis can rebuild those grassroots efforts to bring our people together. Shalom, or peace, is truly our only option. We must build on our commonalities and not wedge and point out our differences, which is why false rhetoric from outsiders, from the rest of the world, isn't helping the Palestinian cause. Not at all. It's actually harming them, and it's harming them as well as it is Israelis. And when I say Israelis, I don't just mean Jews, I mean all Israelis of all faiths. This week, we read Parashat Chayei Sarah, meaning the life of Sarah. In the opening verses, we read that Sarah has passed, yet she is remembered for her life, for her accomplishments. In the third verse of chapter 23, we read that Abraham rose up from being beside Sarah and went to speak to the Hittites, saying, Ger v'toshav anochi imachem, tnu li achuzat kever imachem, v'kbera meti milfanai. I am a resident alien among you. Sell me a burial site so that I may bury my wife. And the Hittites respond, Hear us, sir. You are the elect of God among us. Bury your wife in the choicest of our burial places. We will not withhold this from you. Then Abraham bowed before the land-owning citizens. The following verses continue to speak of the transaction between Abraham and the Hittites. We can glean so much from this passage. A mutual understanding, a mutual respect between two peoples, especially in a time of loss. There's a boundary drawn that when we lose loved ones, we offer our moral compass to show compassion, empathy, and support basic human decency. There's so much for us to learn from this passage today. Much of our world has lost its moral compass, compassion, and empathy for the other, whoever they deem the other to be. Instead of creating opportunities for peace and compassion, outsiders have generated a further divide, pain, and mercilessness based on ignorance and hatred masked in humanitarianism. This is the harsh reality. But I am optimistic and hopeful. This is our opportunity to embrace and elevate our Jewishness. We have been pushed out of many circles, including progressive ones, where we thought we had a home, but learned the harsh truth of who our friends are and aren't. And this is our opportunity to rethink and reshape the truth and disseminate to the world one relationship at a time. In this moment, none of us are exempt from doing the work of rebuilding, whether it's through donating to institutions that are fighting for Jewish hatred, all the way to inviting a friend of a different faith to Shabbat dinner. Each and every action counts and matters. We're in a place where we can rebuild a better world for our next generation. We have all suffered through a pogrom, the most impactful one since the Holocaust. A few years ago, Lord Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, Zichrono Livracha, put it so eloquently when he said, "Never again is starting to sound like ever again." And at the heart of it is hostility to Jews. In the Middle Ages, Jews were hated because of their religion. In the 19th and 20th century, they were hated because of their race. Today, because it is no longer done to hate people for their religion and their race, they are hated for their state. The reason changes, but the hate stays the same. Anti-Zionism is the new anti-Semitism. It is Jew hatred. Moses' doctrine, uvacharta b'chaim, choose life, because we have to stand up and fight. We have to stand up and win. Judaism is the defeat of probability by the power of possibility, and nowhere will you see the power of possibility more than in the state of Israel today. Amen, indeed. We must take Rabbi Sachs's words to heart and continue to do the work of our tradition, promoting peace, repairing the world, fight hatred with love, and invite the stranger among us into our home to share in our beautiful rituals. I'd like to end by sharing a letter that was recently written by an 8th grader in our community who has asked to remain anonymous. Her social studies teacher made a comparison between European colonialists who oppressed Native Americans in this country, quote, just as the Israelis are doing to the Palestinians today. Not only is this an inaccurate parallel, it was also insensitive to the Jewish kids in the classroom who are dealing with Jewish hatred in school and on social media. Our brave and courageous and well-versed student wrote a 2-page handwritten letter sharing her vulnerability and her concern, and I'd like to read just a few short bits of it now. When I first heard the news on October 7th, I was scared, angry, and lost. When you brought up what was happening in Israel and compared it to the European colonization of America, I felt tears start to form in my eyes. Every day while I'm at school, my brothers and sisters in Israel fight to protect their country against the hatred of others. Every night before I go to bed, I say 2 prayers for Israel. 1, the mourner's Kaddish for all the men, women, and children who have been killed, and the Misha Beirach. Nearly every person living in Israel has family or friends that are in need of healing in their mind, body, and soul. Israel is a very easy target and is currently vulnerable. If you are to bring this topic up to the class again, please try to be more careful with your words. If the youngest members of our community are fighting the hatred in the world, we have no excuse and may not stay silent in this moment. We must continue to do our work in education, outreach, and dialogue, especially when it's painful. We must continue to thank any and all of our leaders who are standing up for Jewish hatred, putting aside our differences. This is not the time to divide, but to come together in understanding, compassion, and love. These values will prevail and bring the ultimate gift of shalom, peace to all. Shabbat shalom. With Torah in our midst and thinking about life and the life of Sarah and her legacy, we think about those who are in need of healing. And as we know, healing takes on so many different forms: mind, body, soul, a wounded heart. And in this moment, we take into our heart Adele Adler, Herbert Chisling, Barry Cott, Tom Cullinan, Jackson Curdy, John Goodman, Brian Gualtier, Maddie Jefferson, Richard Moore, Edith and Levi Rubenstein, Walter Schwartz, and Bob Shippey. If you would like to add the name of anyone at this time, I invite you to do so as my gaze meets yours. I invite us all to join on page 253 for our prayer for the Mishaberach.
Yisheberach avotenu mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Yisheberach imotenu mikor habracha lehavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Amen. This evening is also the 85th anniversary of Kristallnacht, which feels so close all of a sudden this year. So in this moment, we are going to think of those who we have lost, mark our yahrzeits, and also take into hearts the lives that we continue to lose in despair, and take all of those souls into our hearts.
There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light, long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. יש כוכבים שאורם מגיע ארצה, רק כאשר הם עצמם עבדו ונם. יש אנשים שזיו זכרם מאיר, כאשר הם עצמם אינם עוד בתוכנו. אורות אלה המאביקים בחשכת הליל, את הדרך, את הדרך. הם שמרים לאדם את הדרך, את הדרך. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. We remember as we live our days, these are the ways we remember. We remember, we remember, we remember.
As we think of those we have lost this week, Bernice Antonos, Armine Diamond, Emily Lane. And we think of those who were laid to rest in the last 30 days, Sharon Dougherty, Robert D. Grease, Lori Goldstone Merkin, Martin Prager, Stephen George Fisher, Gloria Frisch, Denny Weisenberger, Charlotte E. Belkin Goldberg, Harry Greenwald, Ned Gross, Larry Riga, Valerie Weintz. We also take into our hearts those whose yahrzeit fall at this season: Esther Lieberman Adler, Molly Bass, Jerome Bentoff, Jenny G. Berger, Joseph Binkovitz, Marion Block, Flora Brodsky, Ida Chaikin, Meyer Chesson, Ruth Broman Danisow, Elsie S. Derry, Barbara H. Edelman, Mina Elkanin, Dora Elsner, Samuel Farkas, Clarence Fischel, Jean C. Fishman, Sadie Friedman, Bess Mandelkorn Fodlauer, Esther Gershwind, Esther H. Gimp, Howard A. Glickman, Ruetta DeVay Gross, Dr. William V. Gross Jr., Louis E. Gruber, Vicki Lynn Gurin, Alan Hartzmark, Irving K. Heller, Vera Jacobson, Sophia Kaber, Peter E. Klein, Lawrence G. Larry Krause, Phil Leeds, Ruth S. Levin, Albert G. Levine, Phyllis E. Levine, Rose B. Lichtig, Peggy Pearl Loveman, Louis Lux, Violet Leb Malvin, Elizabeth Margulis, Mrs. Martin A. Marks, Dr. Jack Meltzer, Al B. Monis, Esther Marchantz, Jerome J. Newman, Kim Newman, Robin H. Pearson, Merrill David Sands, Edward Chagrin, Howard B. Schreibman, Louis Sharansky, Edith Siegel, Sadie W. Solomon, Anna Spager Sperling, Lily T. Spitz, Teresa Spitz, Seymour G. Spunt, Evelyn Stark, Dorothy Stuntz, Andrea Tuber, Richard A. Walks, Rita Weidenthal, Henry H. Waskopf, Bernard G. Wengel, Paul Wexler, Harriet L. Widener, Myron E. Wool, and all of the lives that were taken on Kristallnacht, on this day, 85 years ago. If you would like to add the name of someone who you have lost in the last week, 30 days, or are marking a yahrzeit, or if I have mispronounced any of the name, I invite you to do so now as my gaze meets yours. If you have lost someone in the last 7 days and are in a period of Shiv'ah, I invite you to please rise as you are able. If you have lost someone in the last 30 days, I invite you to please rise as you are able. If you have lost someone in the last year, I invite you to please rise. if you're marking a yard site, I invite you to please rise. Now, as a caring community, I invite everyone to please rise as you are able and join us for the Mourner's Kaddish on page 294. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהא שמי רבה מבורך לעלם ועלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהא שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. May their memories be for a blessing forever in our hearts, and together we say,
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל
you may be seated. These few weeks have been so difficult for so many of us, and it is imperative, important now more than ever. This is what allows us to be so resilient, to celebrate moments of joy, to be present, not even in these big moments, but just to be, to breathe, to exist, to be with a friend, to come to services. Is there anyone who wants to share something they're excited about or something that happened this week that they would love to share with our community? Madam Utley. 2 birthdays. Benjamin's birthday. 3. Dan. I was going to say, how old's Dan going to be? Rabbi Dan Utley, Suzanne and Bill Utley, his parents are here. Mazel tov. That's very exciting. Are Dan and Benjamin going to do the same thing for their birthday? No? Okay.
Rabbi, I have a
Mazel.
friend. I reconnected with a long-lost friend tonight. I want to wish a happy birthday to my friend Stephanie, whose birthday is next week. Happy birthday, Stephanie, to you and many, many more.
Amen. Our kids are coming back.
Any other pieces of good news, Pop? Mazel
Chance,
tov.
mazel
A
tov
new
on your
job.
new job. We're so happy for you.
Well, as the children are
Wonderful.
coming in, I would like to at least take a moment to thank our musicians tonight.
Amen.
And to let you know that after our closing song, as everybody is starting to leave the chapel, you might want to leave a little on the slower side, because Marshall and Virginia are going to share with us not 1, not 2, but all of the service songs of the branches of the United States, as well as the
Israel.
Israeli Defense Force March. So in honor of Veterans Day, you will hear all of the beautiful songs from all the branches
Wonderful.
of the service.
But for now, no.
No,
Yes?
go ahead, go
Okay.
ahead.
I was going to say Shehechianu.
Go ahead, we're good.
Shehechianu.
Well, I think we should.
Amen.
All right, Shehechianu.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה I'd love to invite Madam President Beth Derry to share with us some announcements. Madam President.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Rabbi, for an uplifting service. Thank you to Cantor Sebo and our amazing musicians. We so appreciate all of you being here. A few announcements, lots of things going on at Temple. If right after the service, in addition to hearing some more wonderful music, we will be having a super oneg, and Rabbi Dadoun and her husband Joe Naroditsky will be leading us in a conversation about Israel. Anybody, if you did not RSVP, you're still welcome. So please join us. We also have two wonderful exhibits in our museum. We have a Chagall exhibit in the Hartzmark Museum, and then in the Upper Hartzmark, we have a wonderful exhibit of maps of hope and despair, which are commemorative textiles by Judith Weinschel Lieberman. They're quilted maps of deep significance to the Jewish people. Come reflect, meditate in front of these beautiful works if you are so moved. On Tuesday, November 14th at 7, if you're not going to the rally in DC, we will have Rabbi Dadoun welcoming Dr. Shirley Regev. She's an expert in boundary setting, working through emotional challenges, grief, facing fears, spirituality, and a journey of how to be fit to face your challenges. November 17th, a week from tonight, we will actually be having a clergy swap with Fairmont. So we're going to start to get to know the clergy at Fairmont. We are sending Cantor Sebo and Rabbi Klein over to Fairmont to be with Rabbi Nosenchuk. They are sending us, Rabbi Caruso and Cantor Lappin, to be with Rabbi Dadoun. So if you want to join us for that, it will also be live streamed, so you can start to get to know their cantors and their rabbis. Lastly, there is a cantor concert to raise money for Magen David Adom, the Israeli ambulance and Red Cross, here at on Sunday, November 19th from 4:30 to 6. They're going to be singing amazing Broadway show tunes and lots of fun. And so if you need more information about any of those events, please just let me know. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you.
And this,
Rabbi.
Oh.
One important thing.
Yeah.
Seriously. Anyone who has a child or a grandchild who is a college student or maybe a senior in high school or maybe just recently out of college, we are collecting names and cell phone numbers and email addresses of those students. Rabbi Dadoun and I are going to be hosting 2 Zoom calls this week, one Monday night at 8:15 p.m., one Thursday evening at 7:30 p.m. Our college students are having a lot of difficult moments and challenges, and some are scary moments on their campuses, and we want to be there for them, and we want them to meet with us in the Zoom call. So do me a favor, either find me after service or call me here at the Temple next week. Give me their name, their phone number. I've reached out to about 95 students. We've reached out to close to 100 students today. We want to make sure everyone is covered. And if your child or your grandchild is not a member of the Temple, we still invite them to the Zoom. Thanks, Rabbi.
Thank you. Good remembering. And now I'd like to invite any of our young members, again, you decide how you want to define that, to the Bima for Kiddush and Motzi.
And including these wonderful teens. Come on up.
Yeah, teens.
Come on, teens.
Who are having a movie night with our wonderful Regina Krieger.
All right. Here we go. Hi, how are you? Shabbat Shalom.
Boy.
All right.
בואי. תחזיק את זה.
Okay, Marshall.
יפה.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פריך הגפן ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו רצבנו ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו זיכרון למעשה בראשית כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש זכר ליציאת מצרים כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל בשבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו ברוך אתה אדוני מקדיש השבת amen. It's definitely not grape juice. I promise. I'm sorry. And now we are going to do hamotzi together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lachem min haaretz. Amen. Amen. And while everybody's here, I'd like to embarrass Sally and Levi Eisenberg. Sorry, it's already done. It's happening. And they are becoming bar mitzvah. What is it, next weekend? Huzzah. Can't Wonderful. wait. Mazal tov.
Yay.
Mazel tov.
And now for our closing song, which can be found on page 356, Yerushalayim Shel Zahav.
אוויר הרים סלול כיין וריח הרענים נישא ברוח הארבעים עם כל פעמונים ובתרדמת אילן ואבן שבויה בחלומה העיר אשר בדד יושבת ובליבה חומה ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכל שירייך אני כינור ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכל שירייך אני
We wish you all a very Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
lovely. It's great to see you. I hope Ellie's doing well.
She is.
Good. I'm so glad to hear it. And Edie, of course. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, thanks so much.
As always.
Oh, you're very kind. Thank you.